We'll get to it. Are we getting the green room done? Finally got my street signs back up.
You did?
Yes.
Nice.
I had an over-under with my wife. It was going to be 6 months after the storm until they would actually get the street signs. Yeah, I think we're within the 6 months.
Welcome
Awesome.
to the green room. And we have an awesome guest today. We're really excited. There's so much news every week. Do you ever notice that? I'm like,
I know.
We always have so much to talk
There
about.
is, because of that, I was lamenting the fact that I never introduce our green room guest appropriately, but today I am, because I'm so excited. I've been chasing Dara, who is Florida's foremost. Okay, listen, it's in her bio, so I'm going to read it because she calls it the Vice Beat. She's done the Vice Beat. I love it. So we have Dara today, and we're so excited about it. So Dara is the senior writer for the News Service of Florida, and she's been watchdogging, which is a word that I love, which is why I wanted to read her words, Florida government and politics for more than 2 decades. Her quote unquote Vice Beat, and I love it, includes, listen, this is my life, includes medical marijuana and gambling.
Oh, there you go. It's your life.
And she's been watchdogging the state's medical cannabis program since its inception. Throughout her journalism career, you name it, she's covered it. Dara also is the host, and this is why I really wanted to make sure we mentioned it, because she does what she does. And at the end, Dara, please remind us again. She does her podcast, a host of the Deeper Dive with Dara podcast, which I guarantee you is got to be fascinating because Florida is such a swamp. You can catch the Vice, and not even on the Vice.
Not even on the Vice.
You can catch weekly episodes of your favorite podcast platform. And I'll have Don pop it up. I'm going to give my phone right now.
That's fine. You're good.
No, because I want to start watching it, because listen, let's get right to Florida.
Okay.
And can we go national for a second and ask why Matt Gaetz is somehow always near George Santos? Seriously, when George Santos is sworn in, there's Matt Gaetz in the background.
So who'd have thought, if you'd told me a couple of years ago that Matt Gaetz would be able to shut down the entire a selection of the House Speaker for, was it a day or two, that he would be able to bring the government to a halt, I would have called you a liar. But you know that the guy is,
it's a wow moment. Yeah, I didn't understand how Gaetz got to that level.
And now to see the committee setups with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Gosar, they're on the oversight committee.
I know.
I mean, it's lunacy.
It's lunacy.
First thing I want to start with you, Darren, I mean it. Journalists, to me, that's why I'm so excited to have you in. And listen, if anybody's watched the green room, they know of our respect for our journalists out there trying to deliver a very difficult truth, right?
Yeah.
And we just so appreciate what you've done. And as far as getting to the cannabis, world, we will in a moment. But I mean, you have literally broke each and every topic and story over I know the past year, but longer than that, of course, that you've been following what's going on. So I just feel like we could ask you one question, and then I'll do what I never do and just shut up and let Dara really catch us up on things. But I mean, literally, we're coming to session, of course, which is really why I wanted to have you. So what do you see as we go into session? It's obviously Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, I see THC caps coming out of the legislative session.
Wow.
I it's interesting, sort of the evolution.
Wow, headline number one.
Of the Ron DeSantis administration. He, right after he was elected in 2019, one of his first major things that he did was got the legislature to authorize whole flower so patients can smoke their treatment. And gradually over time, the governor, in this latest iteration of the governor, I think his evolution has been away from being pro medical marijuana. And you see that we can talk a little bit about it with some changes in the administration of the Office of Medical Marijuana Use, in the handling of waivers from the MMTCs, and even in what you were telling me about how doctors are treating patients. There so I have been told, like, for sure that that the THC caps are something that we're going to see. Now, as you know,
Wow.
that's problematic because we
By
thought, some of us
percentage
thought
of
that
THC,
wouldn't.
Dara? By going back to that old 10%
I don't know.
product cap
I don't
on
have any details
milligrams?
about it yet. I don't know if it's just going to be on whole flower or on all products. And the problem, as you know, and your watchers and listeners know, is that just really ends up functionally raising the costs for patients
all it
because
It's
they
it,
have
it,
to purchase more product
Product.
to get the same relief.
But
it's
they
up-
also put even the restrictions on how much you can purchase now. I mean,
Right.
they're really restricting
And
everything.
it also
They
will
have to
drive
ultimately-
folks to the black market.
Mhm.
well, and the
and I
gray market
it-
and the Delta 8 and the Delta 8 and
Right,
6.
right.
We could talk and we will.
Yeah.
So
And the
problematic,
last thing I
Dara.
want to say about that is I think that it could have a sort of a backlash effect and create more support for the recreational proposed constitutional amendment for adult use that the governor does not support. So that now I'll hand it over.
Go grab the blood pressure cuff. No, listen, Dara, first off, you're surprising me because how I was really kind of reading the landscape was that really, DeSantis is kind of just laying in the weeds right now. And I tell patients that we're stuck in a happy neutral, so to speak, that fortunately we voted on this back in November of 2016 by constitutional amendment. And while, Rick Scott was like this and everybody knows that, DeSantis has been a little bit kind of more like that. And he'll never be this guy, but he did give a few things early on, but he also said he was going to break up the cartel, right? I know you remember the news conference and
Right.
very right.
Yeah,
So for you to tell me right now that there's going to be a focus on our program in that manner in Tallahassee this year surprises me because I just didn't see the interest. So where is it being driven from? Do you believe it's out of the governor's office itself? I know we have a very conservative speaker as well.
Plaza level, because that's what we hear in the capital city of the Sunshine State, call the governor's office and the cabinet office plaza level. I know that's
Plaza level.
great. But the governor now has part of the shift in this attitude towards medical marijuana and marijuana in general is the governor has a new his chief of staff and his general counsel, Ryan Newsom and James Uthmeyer is his chief of staff. They are two very, very ultra conservative attorneys. And I think they may be driving the train on this. I think the governor might be in he might not care a lot about it, but they care enough about it to make this happen.
Wow.
A lot of us know Ray Rod. He was the one who was leading the charge against in favor of THC caps back a couple years ago. And of course, Speaker Sprowls was very anti marijuana. And we thought, okay, with Ray Rod gone, maybe that'll just go away on its own. But my sources who are close to the governor have told me, and these are people who also are, represent either operators or wannabe operators, that buckle up for the THC caps.
Absolutely.
Wow.
That's interesting.
You know what? So I was supposed to go to West Virginia to speak in front of the West Virginia Medical Cannabis Commission, first ever recommending doctor ever invited to speak. They gave me 15 minutes because they have a 10% THC cap battle going on up there with their 14,000 patients, 14,000, not 780,000, soon to be 800,000, with a limited program in West Virginia that's quite frankly kind of garbage anyway. trying to bring this into Florida right now, okay, is
800, but again, but I kind of.
so thanks for the heads up.
But you know what?
It might be leading towards rec. I think, you know what?
Right.
I agree with you. I agree with Dara.
It's so contrary to the doctor in me that knows that we must protect medical as we go forward to rec. We
but
can't
here-
go backwards.
But here is one of the reasons I think for this kind of this skepticism about our medical program from the plaza level and from some state legislative leaders is the number of patients, and I mean, we really should talk about this. Stories I've written about all kinds of hijinks that some of your colleagues have
That's the
been
problem.
doing. And so the rapid escalation of the patients, the kind of a wink and a nod and a nudge, and oh yeah, you know, I got a headache and I'm a patient and all I have to do is do a telehealth, a 4-minute telehealth visit with
Which
you.
has
and
never
I'm a patient.
been
I know.
allowed in
I
the
know.
state of Florida.
I know,
for new
but now
patients.
you've got
No,
almost 800,000 patients.
specifics. Let's talk Varihil,
Sure.
okay? Because we've talked Varihil in the green room more than
Yeah.
once. Believe me.
But
There's
I'm
stories out
telling
there.
you,
They're not the only ones.
that has caused a lot of heartburn
It
for the
has, I
governor's
agree.
office.
If you tell me that, okay,
And that's
that then we've known that empirically,
But this is
okay.
something- Okay, but knowing that, how come the Office of the Medical can do something about those outliers? So like now, even
Yep.
with these requests for exemptions for patients that if they need extra orders and okay, they need medical records. Offices, true medical offices like us, we're gathering that data. We have it. But there's those outliers that are still getting that 4-minute phone call. Somehow they're still happening in the state. They're throwing in ridiculous orders that they're getting denied by the OMMU because they're so out of whack. And so those are the ones that are causing havoc. And honestly, this is where, again, I speak to you often on this. The doctors, and maybe Dara, you can help of writing something where the true physicians of medical marijuana in the state of Florida, you have to get together because the ones that are these outliers are causing havoc. And for those 800,000 patients, okay, you know what? We've been doing surveys. I'd probably say we just started doing surveys, Dara, in our office, asking patients about use, what products, what their diagnosis is, and kind of outcomes. There are some patients, and I'd say like probably now I've probably looked at 300 surveys. What I'm seeing is the ones that are true patients, like you can see there's a definitive in how they do, like what they're using, how often they're dosing, everything. There are those outliers of a few people that you do have a diagnosis perhaps of a migraine or of a general pain. They don't care about what products they're using. They're either just smoking whole flower. Like you see a trend, there is, but that's a small, minute percent. I'd say 99%. And I hope once we start analyzing our data, we can actually say, like, listen, the ones that maybe abuse the system where they are trying just to get it to whatever, be legal, that's a minute percentage.
Yeah.
But the cancer patients, the ones with, Crohn's disease, those are different. And again, the physicians need to speak out against the outliers before a cap comes, because it will be catastrophic to some patients.
Right. Let's talk about the new sheriff in town, Dara, because you
Oh,
broke
because
the
nobody
story,
knew.
because there's a new director. And I think once again, it's just another manifestation of, and I guess I'll call it disdain. Okay. I'll call it disdain for the medical cannabis program from the plaza level. And I'll also say from, how really the OMU was ultimately set up. It was so much better at a certain point. I think at the end of the Courtney Coppola era, there was some pretty reasonable, openness. They came to the FMCCE conference, right? And Chris Ferguson, I was able to communicate. But the new guy in town, right? Even you, as you were telling me, Dara, seems to have made no statement.
Yeah.
And you would think that somebody like that would want to come out and say, greetings, everybody. 800,000 some patients in medical cannabis program, you doctors and all you people. Here I am. Okay.
Well, Chris Kendall, he is a 25, he retired from the Navy. He was a Navy JAG. And we know that the governor was also a Navy JAG, so gotta be, and I think they had maybe some sort of connection prior to, in addition to that. But, you know, he doesn't appear to have had any healthcare experience prior to joining, becoming the head of OMMU. And I think I told you, Barry, that I've not been in touch with my sources over the past couple of weeks because I fractured my tibia. And so I'm like really kind of just trying to get back into the swing of things here. But as of a couple of weeks ago, what I had heard from numerous sources was that, and good sources, was that they were walling off the new director of OMMU, and it wasn't going to be like in the old days where the lawyers for the MMTCs and the doctors groups could call up Chris Ferguson and say, hey, you know, what about this? Or one of his, I don't want to call him minions, but one of his assistants, somebody over at OMMU, and personally just say, hey, you know, what we're trying to do here is blah, blah, blah. And so now that slows down the process. You know, they really want to wall him off. I think there was a sense from the plaza level that there was too clubby of a relationship between OMMU and the MMTCs.
Oh,
And so this is kind of a way of putting a little bit of
division.
a road, you know, what road bump, what do you call the
Yeah,
traffic?
roadblock. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen, and it's so interesting because, and let's go to the next topic, which would be Smart and Safe Florida. And, you know, the Home Grow Initiative. We had Mariah Barnhart in the green room last week. And, you know, that she's trying to lead that effort. And it's so interesting that at the, you know, plaza level, legislative level, there's so much pushback on what seems to be inevitable if the people get a chance to vote on things, right? So what do you see as we go forward with Smart and Safe? Trulieve just kicked in there, I think $20th million.
Yeah,
the
Trulieve
campaign.
is unfolding their wallet for that effort. And I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and make a prediction right now. Home grow will not pass in Florida in the next 5 years or maybe even 10 years. I mean, I just don't see them being able to get the resources. It is going to cost, with what the legislature has done to the ballot initiative process, it costs at least $50 million to get on the ballot. And then if the sheriffs or, you know, the Adelson family or whomever decides to come out, or the assemblers and oppose it, you're just dead.
A
in
little
the
shiver
water.
up my spine,
You know, and they
Alvina Faye
may
and assemblers.
even raise it's all, we are already at 60%. They may raise the
I think they're
percentage
going
for passage. So, you know, I
on
think,
the state level, they're doing it on the local level, and
yeah.
Sort of statement by the college presidents and something,
Oh
what's
my
going
God,
on
yeah,
in
oh my
education?
God, new college, they just changed, it was one of the most liberal colleges
I
in the state
know.
of Florida, and DeSantis just wiped out the board and put in his cronies, and it's like new college, the professors are in upper, it's a liberal arts, it was a strong liberal arts college, and it's caused a fiasco with the professor.
My best friend's daughter and her daughter's son, her grandson, her daughter is a New College alum, and her grandson is currently attending New College, and they are beside themselves.
Yeah, it's an uproar, seriously. It's
Yeah.
caused an uproar.
And
it
he's an
should be.
out-of-state student, so I mean, it's just there's a lot of teeth gnashing going on in the alumni and student population over New College. But back to the medical marijuana, I had heard rumors that, and I don't know who was pushing this, because sometimes people tell me stuff because they want me to pursue it, and then that makes it real, you know.
Me too.
So I had heard a rumor a little while ago about how the plaza level was going that the legislature was going to try to do something to address adult use, so to offset the smart and safe. Is it smart and safe or safe?
Smart.
I
I
always
think
get
it's smart first and safe second.
okay.
I think.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, whichever one, it's smart and safe. And I'll go out on a limb and make another prediction. I never used to, but now I'm old and I'm sitting here with my leg up and whatever. I don't give a shit. So the legislature is not going to do anything to further to authorize adult use in Florida. I just I do not see this Republican control, and I don't think that the governor actually really would want that. It would want to allow that to happen on his watch, because he would have to sign that bill. He would have to authorize it. So you can have me back on, and I can eat my words if I'm.
No.
I don't think you
on
will.
I
that.
don't think you'll have to, Dara.
Yeah, I
Listen,
don't
we just
think
signed a
so.
brand new 5-year lease on our office. We're committed to being here to, continue to progress what I want to go back to the conversation that we had about why the legislature, although, listen, they just believe what they believe, but the plaza level, why they may be concerned about the growth of the program, true medical patients rooted. I'm not going to correct you on that. I'm not going to go Tommy Chong that all cannabis is medicinal either. But you have to remember it's 2023 and there's single exposure overdose to death. Okay, substances in the recreational market today, including rare. And Dara, have you been able to track down a true case of fentanyl in cannabis that's caused death in Florida?
I have not, but I had heard there was fentanyl laced cannabis that caused that several deaths over a weekend period right near me in Gadsden County, but I never did follow up on that, and I don't know if that's true or if that was just chatter. I think the number of patients caught, even though it shouldn't have, because when they initially did the analysis on the amendment, and you compared it to, and you looked at the state population, I mean, we really are not over the number of patients that we should have, given the size of our population and the makeup of our population.
Listen, my point is the bad actors, okay, have soiled what legitimate needs are in 2023. And listen, I could have 15 Dr. Berry centers, and Ruta would be a great administrator of them. But it's not what we need in cannabis right now. We need focused practitioners and serious patients coming in. And some of those patients, listen, some of those patients are cannabis consumers. They can be here from Canada. They can move from California. They can be from Colorado. They can be longtime cannabis consumers from their buddy here in Florida. Okay. But the point is they want off the legacy market. They want safety. They want guaranteed quality of product. They want labeling. They want testing.
I think that's actually another huge point.
They also don't want them to go to use Delta 8 and 10. And Dara, let's just go that way. Have you had any snooping from anybody who actually is looking at what's really important in Florida, which is the regulation of this gray market, as we call it?
It's really
garbage that's out there.
It's really interesting that you raised that as a question, and I need to follow up on this as a story, because I think what I have been told by my sources who are close to the plaza level, again, sorry, is that I think there is like I don't want to say confusion, because these aren't stupid people. They're very smart people. They're very smart people, but there is a blend in their perception of what's going on in the cannabis market today of the legal medical products and the unregulated cannabis products. And I don't think that, I think that's a problem. I think they are aware of, and I've heard that they are very unhappy about kids and college kids being able to go and get backpacks full of weed that knocks them out from, some superstore that's completely unlicensed and unregulated.
Well, it's
But I
him
think
sprayed with Delta 8, or whoever
I know.
knows what the
But-
heck
but
it's sprayed with.
It's like if you're driving down the street, like, okay, go down Sarasota, you see, we sell THC, we have THC,
Yeah.
we have this. And if you're a legislator and you're driving down the street and like, say for me, I'm like somebody that's not a user of cannabis my whole life, and so I'm driving down, I'm like, wow, there's THC on every corner. So I can see where
It
they're
is,
getting that.
You know what, that you mentioned that now, I do get an understanding of that,
You
to a
do,
certain
you know
extent,
what I mean? So for them, and I think for them, they don't realize that THC that's being blared out on every street corner isn't the regulated
no, because they're not
medical
allowed
market.
to.
Yeah,
But-
they're not allowed to, exactly.
But I
They
also
do that.
want to say, I want to give you guys a plug because it is a very, very complicated market. A patient-directed treatment is very difficult to navigate without a physician who knows what they're doing. There are so many products out there. I'm talking about even for patients with cards who shop at
course.
regulated MMTCs. There are so many products to choose from, even within one MMTC, and there are going to soon be, or at some point right now, there's 24 or less than 24. There will be 4 there will be twice that number. And it's a very expensive, time consuming and overwhelming endeavor to navigate that course of treatment on your own without a doctor to help you.
Absolutely. And I think that is another, that's a really true valid statement. And because really we do have patients that come in and they've not used, and the other thing that even from our surveys that we're seeing, our average patient's like 72 years old and most of them are female. And so they're coming in, they've never used, and they're looking for something natural. They're looking for something not over the counter, not prescribed by a doctor, as far as like,
Who can carry the message in Tallahassee right now, Dara? Because listen, here's the point. I think they know who I am. I mean, I got my 30 seconds of fame up there when the last THC cap battle came, and I'm going to be up there again, of course. The formal lobbying day, everybody, this year is March 16th per Florida Can and all that. This is the first I've heard about a dose cap focus up there. Or however they're going to do it, Dara. They've already clamped down, and Ruta will tell you, we're in this phase now where patients are now falling into the negative of their milligrams because
really?
Yes. Listen, if you want a story,
that's an awful story.
There are patients that are being affected literally every day. My staff taking care of a tearful.
We'll talk about that offline later, but yeah,
because the patients were grandfathered in, and now that the orders are circling back in, the state is making them pay back milligrams that they got.
What? Wait.
Yes.
You have to give back those milligrams. Even I'm talking to Donnell. Yeah, can you believe it?
Right. Yeah. So it is your mouth being open, and I'm telling you, thank God for my staff. And I salute them every day, and I'll tout them, as much as I can, because nobody knows what goes on in Florida more than my guys. And somehow we're navigating through an unbelievably crazy period of time.
Crazy, and they make it more and more complicated. But the fact that they actually are taking back milligrams from patients as we speak is insane.
Let's get to the last topic that I know everybody's interested in, and you already intimated to it. Green rooms go so fast too.
They do.
So we're almost out of here. How about the new licenses, Dara? What do you see there? Of course, there are 24, maybe 25. It's going to be 28 soon. However many the number is, state hasn't given a license since 2018. Of course, these are going to be trickled out by a new kind of a certificate of need type of.
I don't think so.
With that tremendous
I don't think so. I really, there was a lot of focus on that interpretation of what they did, and I have repeatedly talked to people who are very close to what's going on and very knowledgeable about this. And and again, you can have me on again and I can eat my words, but I really believe that they're going to move forward in the first batch of licensing to do the statutorily required 22 licenses that they should have given out however many years ago. They're like 6 years behind or 4 years behind or whatever.
Yep.
I think they're going to do that. And then the next batch of licensing that they're going to do will be, then they've got this whole rule already set up for every time they hit that 100,000 patient mark, they'll do 4 more. Now, whether the legislature wants to dial that back or not, I think is a good question. And I've heard some speculation about that because let's face it, I mean, we're not really having an access issue right now.
Well, people will argue that. People will argue that. But Nikki Fried was in the green room, Dara, about 8 weeks ago or so, predicting that the governor was going to, quite frankly, try to allot no more licenses if he could constitutionally get away with it.
I've heard that, but I've also heard that they're going to go ahead and do these next bunch of licenses because they're so pissed off at True Leave for sponsoring this adult use amendment that they're not trying to protect anybody. They're not trying to protect the cartel anymore.
Do you see other MMTCs ultimately getting on board with True Leave and the financing of Smart and Safe?
That was what Kim had told me. I had Kim on my podcast, A Deeper Dive with Dara Cam. How'd you like that? That was
very that's what I wanted you to do before you get on.
I had Kim Rivers on my podcast a couple months ago, and what she told me is that she was really hoping that she would get other MMTCs and other, even out of state folks interested in contributing money to that. So far that hasn't happened. We'll see what does happen. True Leave does operate in other states. They're the largest, I think, retailer in the country now after they bought their merger. And
1 and 2, they go back and forth. Yeah.
But they also operate in adult use states. So I don't think they're afraid of losing, obviously more broader access would be a benefit to them. What it does to you all, your practice, and to the, what's like 2,100, I think, physicians who are qualified.
Yeah, there's a number, but there's not nearly that number that practice it, and surely much fewer that do it in a manner that we would like to see it done, with full educational, and follow up, on the whole bit. But listen, it's been so great to have you in. I'm telling you, the green rooms go so fast. And I'm so glad that you listen. And that's the way it goes. And I'm glad you were able to promo your own podcast, because listen, and please continue to do what you do, Dara, because we really need to have that voice out there, and surely that anything that I can do, to assist. I'm really concerned when you tell me that there's all this interest in cannabis up in Tallahassee right now to a certain extent, and there's still not any interest in the boots on the ground docs, the MMTCs that are involved. They'll throw a lawyer on there. We need a patient care rep, veteran rep, minority rep, all that. But we need an advisory panel at the OMU level that there's no interest in forming in this state. And to think that we're going to go forward with things that will drastically affect 780,000 people in the state, and I just wanted to circle back to that, because there's people in the state that are relying on us, Dara, you, to be the beacon of what's going on and to give it the honest appraisal the best that you can. Us to be here to educate patients and to try to bring other doctors along in doing it in the appropriate manner,
in a professional,
and just to hear you tell me that there has been effect from the bad actors in the state, just makes me more passionate, quite frankly, to try to weasel, if I can, and anything you can do to assist me. And we can have a press conference up in Tally any day you want. I'll make the drive. We got to make sure that the focus is where it needs to be, with educated people that do this every day, advising people. We've lost Carlos Guerrero Smith. We lost Andrew Learned. We lost our beacons, Jeff Brandis in the Senate, who held the line, there against dose caps last time. Now we have Ray Rod up
We
there,
don't have
you
it
know,
anymore.
and it scares the hell out of me. And listen, we're gonna be fine. Our practice, Dara, you'd be surprised. We weren't really affected by the dose caps or anything because our patients were ordering under what the state put out.
Yeah, we were always conservative.
Right,
so-
we've always been conservative,
Yeah.
okay, but the state needs to understand and learn that there's people out here that know what's going on. So if you got any way of
And we have to
dropping
have
anything,
someone after the legislative session
Or
too, like
during.
or during, like maybe that would be cool too. You have to come back,
please.
please.
I'd love to. I'd
Yeah.
love
And listen,
to.
I wasn't gonna hip and betray you, but I know you have a tibial plateau fracture, 2 weeks
Yeah.
on a walker, you know, and you know, listen, I know you're not, you gotta wear shades. Who's the song? What's the song, Don? I know, you know these things. That's right, I know. But anyway, I want to wish you all the best of luck in your
Yeah.
healing and hopefully, you know,
Thank
everything
you.
will get back to normal for you very quickly.
I'm
Thank you.
actually using some THC,
Ointment,
topical.
balm.
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So I don't
Good.
know if it's helping with my arms, the walker thing, but anyways.
I
I'd
wasn't
love
going to hip and
to-
betray you or having a card or not, but anything
I
that I
have
may
a
do
card.
to.
I have a card. I'm open about it. I talk
Uh,
about it. I talk about it on my
As
show.
do I. I was going to out myself in
I'm a
front of the
gummy
West-
girl.
I was gonna out myself in front of the West Virginia Medical Cannabis Commission, you know, not only as doctor advocate, but also as patient, you know.
Yeah.
And listen, it's 2023 and it's time to accept cannabis as the natural plant-based adjunct and alternative to healthcare that it can be. So
And
Well,
that's a
on
good
that
way
note,
to
we
wrap
have
it.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
we'll see you next week, Dara. Thank